Dr. Shiba, I wanted to ask you from the standpoint of being with Kaiser Permanente, what type of personality or characteristics do you think really bode well for a YO, resident or fellow or in early practice, that is considering a practice model such as that in an employed model like Kaiser?
So I work with Kaiser Permanente Southern California, which is about a 9,000 physician group. What we're really primarily looking for, I think, is what a lot of other practices are looking for, is that a young physician who works well with others, has great communication skills, has a great work ethic. I really think that, given that there's really a kind of group mentality, I think that's really important, that you're able to really meld well and have good interpersonal skills.
What type of personality or applicant does not fit well within the Kaiser type model?
I think we're getting really good candidates. What I do see, though, is if we have physicians who've gone out into private practice and they've had small solo practices where they have a lot of autonomy. I think working in my group, I can't just decide I'm going to cancel my clinic 5 days from now and go golfing. I really, don't have that ability. So I think, if anything, we do have maybe some physicians who've been in practice for 10 years and then they go to the group model, and that loss of autonomy at times is difficult.
Dr. Chen, let me ask, you're currently a solo practitioner. Previously you were in a multi-specialty group. When you were at our stage, did you envision yourself being in this type of practice setting?
I did not envision myself being in this type of practice setting at all. I always felt that the employed practice setting was the safest practice setting. My first job was actually with the Indian Health Service with the U.S. government. My second job was with a model in Arizona that's very similar to Kaiser, but I felt that they didn't run it the way that I wanted. For example, when I wanted an OCT and an IOL master for my satellite office, they weren't willing to put up the funds for it. When we asked for another exam room, they gave us a hard time. When we wanted to make changes in the way that the staff were managed and who was hired and what they did, there was pushback. The biggest advantage I have as a solo practitioner is, although the responsibility falls on my shoulders to take care of all those things, I can reap the rewards of my responsibilities.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. O'Brien, you mentor many residents, many fellows as they're kind of venturing out into their first job. What type of recommendations or tips do you have for us as we are embarking on that important decision and choosing between these different practice models, one of which also being academic medicine?
My advice to you is that many of life's big decisions are not made through the way we've been brought along our whole careers, especially up till now. It's a very clear course forward of what you have to do to become an ophthalmologist. And then suddenly you're faced with this decision, which is huge, and it feels like doors are slamming behind you when you go into your first job. But I've hired people back into academics from private practice, and they're back in academics. And similarly, we've seen people who've decided maybe academics isn't the thing that they want, and they prefer to move to private practice, and they remain adjunct faculty and still teach, and we have a great relationship. So I don't think doors are really slamming closed, and I think you just kind of make the best decision and then see what opportunities arise after that big decision. And when opportunities arise, see them and take them, and so you don't have to get it right all the time.
So one thing I would also add is where your practice location is. I think it's really important to look at the state you're going to be based in. In California, where over 80% is managed care, that's going to be different if you decide to practice in maybe the Midwest, Nebraska, or even some areas of the Southeast. So I think some of our larger metropolitan areas are going to have different opportunities in terms of things like compensation, reimbursement, and even in terms of academic opportunities, depending on where you decide you'd like to ideally settle in the United States as well. I think geography is very important to consider as well.
Just because you're in private practice or solo practice doesn't mean that you can't also do things related to academics. One of my very good friends, he has a solo practice, but he's actually a program director. He's a residency program director over at Cook County. One of my other friends has a solo practice that he works at half-time, and he works at a group for the other half of the time, and he just was a first author presentation at ASRS.
what's the best way to keep your options open if you do choose to go into private practice, but maybe you want to then re-enter academic medicine?
You know, calling people and asking for advice is a really good thing. People that you don't even know are flattered when you call them and ask for advice. And, you know, we may not always have the job opening ourselves, but we'll know somebody who is looking.
Reach out to your contacts or even come to sessions like these, because at least in my own residency program, I didn't really have an opportunity to really learn about these different modes of practice. And and the only reason why I knew when I landed where I am is because of opportunities like this. So I would again echo the importance of reaching out to senior colleagues, even those out in private practice. You know, I think, you know, a lot of the ophthalmologists, you know, we enjoy working with younger ophthalmologists. And even if you just meet someone here and just say, you know, I have this, you know, question I'm asking in my mind, would you mind sharing some advice? And I think the grand majority would be more than willing to help you and share their experiences of what it's like in small solo practice, in group practice, or even in academics.